Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Thank you all for tuning in to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Evan Worley. Happy Friday, and I hope all of you are making the best with your upcoming weekend. I know I'm trying to, at least. I got plans to go to CHS Field, the home of the Independent League St. Paul Saints, to watch Toy Story on the Jumbotron. With some fireworks afterwards. I'm pretty excited about that. Just to get out of the house for a little bit. Not doing too much of that recently. I will be wearing a mask and distancing from others, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Anyways, let's jump into some news. Today, I will be covering the umpires deciding to opt out this season. I will be talking about the Mets purchase, or updates on the Mets purchase, and I will be going over the DraftKings over-under win totals, letting you know which ones I will be betting on. I'm a huge gambling guy, so anytime that I can bet on preseason stuff, put a little money down, just makes the game more interesting for me. I don't know about how you guys like to handle it, but to each their own. But before we dive into all of that, we have a wild horse on the loose in Atlanta. Big news coming out of Atlanta a few days ago when they decided they will be adding a 29-year-old Cuban outfielder, Yasiel Puig, to the roster, barring, he passes the physical and the COVID-19 tests. But that is a huge addition to their already loaded outfield. I mean, they have Marcell Ozuna in left, Ender Inciarte in center. Acuna looks like he's going to be playing right. And adding Puig to that roster, along with having two of the top 30 prospects in baseball dedicated to the outfield with Christian Pache and Drew Waters, there is an argument to be made that they have the best outfield in baseball. I know that I'm a little biased because I'm a diehard Braves fan, but I still believe that they could have the best outfield in baseball. He's replacing veteran Nick Markakis, who backed out after he had a long conversation with our star first baseman, Freddie Freeman, about his symptoms. Freddie Freeman looks like he's going to be coming off the disabled list with coronavirus June 30th, along with Touki Toussaint and Will Smith. So it's looking like the Braves pitching is going to be looking pretty nice. With this, I would not be surprised if they moved Acuna to center field, took Inciarte into a platoon role, and moved Puig to right to have an outfield of Marcell Ozuna, Ronald Acuna Jr., and Yasiel Puig. Now, there's no argument that Yasiel Puig had a down year last year. He only had a 267 average, 24 homers, and a 785 OPS. But one thing that we can all agree on is he definitely represents a more fearful bat than Nick Markakis did. He put the ball in, Markakis put the ball in play more than Yasiel Puig did, which is great. But Puig doubled his numbers of homers and had one less RBI after only 100 games. And those 100 games were just with Cincinnati. That was before he even got traded to go to Cleveland. So in 16 less games than Nick Markakis, he had more than double the homers and just one less RBI. He had, 19 steals last season, and Nick Markakis had a whopping 2. So he adds so much to that Braves offense. and it's going to be incredible. The Braves need all the help they can get with that just absolutely juggernaut of a schedule that they have to face, with their interleague games being against, the AL's toughest division, in my eyes at least. So, anyone who knows the game knows speed kills. Speed absolutely kills, especially in the playoffs. One play that, always sticks out to me is in the 2016 World Series with the Mets and Royals, where Hosmer just takes off for home on a grounder to short. And, the first baseman he rushed it and overthrew it. These guys, they're pros. I get that, but they're humans at the end of the day. Everybody can, have their bad moments, and it's way easier to inflict those bad moments when you have speed on the base paths. So Yasiel Puig represents someone who has, how do I say this? He has the confidence to do it. Not only is he crazy enough to do it, but he will do it, and he will not think twice, which is something that the Braves desperately need. Like I said, he had 19 steals to Markakis' 2. And in addition, Markakis had an OPS of 100 or less 2 of the last 3 seasons. Or an OPS plus of 100 or less 2 of the last 3 seasons, while Puig has been 100 or more all but one time in his entire career. Even last year, his down year, when everyone thought, oh, Yasiel Puig's done, his OPS plus was still at 100. That's really good offensively. Again, something that the Braves desperately need. Defensively, Puig is, been less than stellar recently. He had his issues with the Dodgers where they sent him down to AAA or single A at one point. And, he was just kind of out on the Dodgers after that. And, if he is able to rekindle that flame that he had when he first came into the league, the Braves could have lightning in a bottle. They found it last year with Josh Donaldson. It seemed like Josh Donaldson was towards the end of his road. And, he picked up and had an incredible season for Atlanta. So maybe they can do the same with Yasiel Puig. And if that's possible, man, oh man, look out. I could see there are times where I can see he will be sitting for Ender Inciarte. Maybe they might do a Inciarte versus righties, Puig versus lefties, kind of a matchup for the starters. That would be something to look out for. Puig he's not the best defender. Marcell Ozuna is a pretty bad defender in left field. So the Braves they're choosing offense over defense, which is something personally I don't like. I think that you should always beef up the defense. Always, always, always. And, because one thing that Braves fans know is that, when they have gone towards offense in the past, it's burnt them in the postseason. Like, they've been the best team during the regular season, and then they go into the divisional round and just get shut down by superior pitching. I'm thinking back to the, all those series against the Giants, where the Giants just walked in and just obliterated the Braves with tremendous pitching over and over and over again, and there's nothing they could do to stop it. So it's not worked out well for them in the past, but who knows? It's a new year, and all they've done is got younger. Youth is the main priority during this time. In all the, strike-shortened seasons, teams have had bounce backs with, a huge youth revolution. We've seen it in basketball. We've seen it in baseball before. It's nothing new to people. So maybe this is a great sign. Puig had a 0 outs above average defensively last year. Granted, 0 outs above average means he was just that, average. Isn't bad, but he could be a lot better, and he knows he could be a lot better. So who knows? Maybe the camaraderie of, Acuna, Albies, Camargo, all the guys on the all the guys on the Braves can really, spark a flame in them. Markakis had a outs above average of -2, so he was, below average last year. So technically, that is a step up, even though Puig has been, not so stellar. The shaky part is Ozuna has a -8 outs above average. That's really not good. So that's where I'm worried as a Braves fan, is how are we going to, hide the lack of success in the outfield. That's going to be a huge storyline to keep up on. I would expect a lot of mishaps in the outfield in Atlanta, but one thing that we know about Yasiel Puig is that his arm can make up for any mistake. He has one of the more fearful arms in the game. Everybody remembers the throw from his opening week in the MLB where, he ranges to the warning track and doubles somebody out at first. He still has that arm, he still has that capability, and people still know about it. So even if there is a mistake in the outfield, the extra base is going to be sought after, not as much as it would with other teams, which is exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. He has been, like I said, he has been a great fielder in the past. He's 3 seasons removed from posting a 108 defensive runs saved above average. 108 defensive runs saved. And that was when he was playing primarily left field and center field. So who knows, maybe they can move Ozuna to the right field, keep Acuna in center, play Puig in left, and, maybe strike lightning in a bottle right there. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. The youthfulness of the Braves and the competitive edge, I really feel like could make Yasiel Puig really sit back and think, like, all right, this could be it. This could be my time to win a title. And if, that sticks with them, the Braves got a good one. Another thing that Yasiel Puig adds that is something that, the Braves desperately need is playoff experience. Everybody in baseball knows the Dodgers have been on an incredible run making the playoffs. They've won the division I don't even know how many years in a row. But, he's played 7 seasons in the bigs, and 6 of them has gone to the postseason. And, he had back-to-back World Series runs where he has delivered in the postseason many times. He has a career .280 batting average and a .780 OPS in 12 playoff series. So, with that veteran presence, it's helped us a lot in the past get over the hump. So, I truly expect that the outfield to get a lot better. And just the team in general to be a lot better. Yasiel Puig is someone you can stick in the 6th hole, maybe even the 7th hole, and you can not only count on 20 home runs, but you can probably expect more out of him, which is incredible. I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited for baseball. It is only a week away, and oh my God, I'm so excited already. So I am going to take a quick break, and I will be right back to talk about the COVID-19 updates. Yay! Alright, I'll be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Alright, everybody, so we are back, and we just talked about the addition of Yasiel Puig to the Atlanta Braves. So, let's move on to the next major news for the week. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows that coronavirus, still a big thing that we got to worry about. And, because of that, I think that there's no doubt that this season's going to be an emotional thrill ride. But, it got made even more, even more crazy. Because everybody's favorite umpire, Joe West, has been seen calling an inter-squad game in Tampa Bay without a medical mask, which, medical masks aren't required by the MLB, but, they're definitely preferred. And he, made some comments that were not taken very well by, the Umpires Association. He said that, the number of deaths related to coronavirus aren't accurate. He said that, he was quoted saying, the government has been giving these hospitals extra money if someone dies of the coronavirus. So everybody that dies is because of coronavirus. I don't care if you get hit by a car, it's coronavirus. Well, Joe West, you can have your opinions, but that caused a major rift in the Umpires Association. Obviously, a bunch of his colleagues, didn't take that too lightly. So, 11 total umpires have opted out of the season, which is, that's a lot. There's only 76 umpires that are employed full-time with the MLB, so there's going to be some new guys from AAA coming up to fill their roles, which, has happened in the past. Definitely when, umpires get injured, they get sick, all the other, normal things that happens. But, this adds an interesting little wrinkle to the season, because all, major sports fans, they remember the 2012 NFL season, which was the year of the replacement refs, and that was can't-miss television. Well, everybody, welcome to the year of the replacement umpires. Like I said, umpire crew has 76 total umpires employed, but with 11 opting out. And, that's just as of right now. In the upcoming days, they could, have more opt out. And with an interesting development, once you opt out, there is no coming back. You can't opt out of the season, then be like, okay, well, I changed my mind. Let me quarantine for 14 days and just rejoin the team. When you're out, you're out. So we have 11 umpires completely out, and who knows, when the season starts, some may change their mind and they want to leave too. That'll cause, more replacement umpires to come in, and I think that's going to be an amazing wrinkle in the season. The minor league umps will be playing a major role this season. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are probably thinking, like, yeah, hey, baseball's baseball. If you can ump a minor league game, you can ump a major league game, which, is true. And, with the lack of fans, that's definitely going to help, the transition, because, the hometown fans you're not going to get those heckles throughout the entire game. So, that's also good. But, every single game played this year has the utmost importance. I feel like some of these umpires are going to catch a major case of the yips. Brian, just going back to the Atlanta Braves, Brian Snitker, he definitely goes to the Bobby Cox School of Management, where, he's not afraid to go out and charge the mound. Joe Girardi of the Phillies, like, who is going to, a new umpire getting Joe Girardi, a World Series champion, in his face, screaming at him? That's going to be a terrifying experience for a newcomer. So who knows? Maybe that could swing a lot of the decisions from the umpiring crew. A lot of these guys, they're not going to have the swagger of, the big name umps, like Angel Hernandez, for example. Albeit he's, notorious for just being a terrible umpire, but he has the swagger nonetheless. And everybody knows Cowboy Joe West. I mean, if you have a nickname and you're an umpire, you pretty much made it. So, there's there are other like coaches and players that will charge from the dugout. And, I feel like they're going to lead to some pretty memorable moments from this MLB season. Not only memorable, but also memeable. So everybody who's into that, get your cell phones ready. Everybody remembers the infamous touchdown touchback in Seattle. I feel like that could happen here. I feel like that could happen in the MLB. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. I think there's going to lead to some hilarious calls. I feel like some teams are going to get heartbroken, which is what every baseball fan kind of wants, in a way. Like, if you're going to lose, if you have a reason to complain about why your team lost, you can hold on to that forever. When you lose and, it's a fair and square, just lost, that hurts a lot more than when you can just complain about the refs for the rest of your life. I think that I would rather lose like that personally. I have lost like that in the past, and I will continue to lose like that. And it makes me feel better because I can hold it over people's heads. Well, if that guy wasn't a total bozo, we would have been champions. And I think that's great. MLB umpires, they're everybody knows that they're known for being older. You got 20 major league umpires who are over the age of 55. Now, that's important for a couple reasons. They're the target audience for, the coronavirus pandemic. So, they're more at risk than the younger guys. So, a lot of experienced umpires, they may be backing out the more the season goes on. So that's definitely something to keep your eye on. And, we could, not only are we looking at, the next generation of stars on the field, but we're also looking at the next generation of game callers. I think that's pretty exciting, for me at least, because, with all the players deciding to opt out, we're going to see a lot of good prospects, like Buster Posey leaving and, deciding to go his route. Optimism right here. We may get to see Joey Bart finally. And Joey Bart is supposed to be a great catching prospect and could be, one of the faces of baseball. I think he has some of the most hype coming out of the minor leagues for a catcher since, Matt Wieters. Matt Wieters was a huge name coming out of the minor leagues. And, when he made his way to the bigs, it was exciting. I tuned into the Orioles. They weren't great, but I watched because I kept hearing all the stories about how Matt Wieters was the guy. So who knows? I may be tuning into some Giants games, just seeing what this Joey Bart guy is all about. And so, with that, let's transition to the testing. So, the testing has gone smooth for some teams, as I've, read in some reports. I've also heard from Trevor Bauer that, everything's going smooth in Cincinnati. But in Chicago, there's been some rumblings that coronavirus testing has not been handled very well. It's the Cubs, they've definitely, made some noise and expressed their concerns with the coronavirus testing and how it's been handled. And, they're taking it day by day. Their pitching coach, Tommy Hotovoy, he just was quoted as saying, when the season starts, though, and we start traveling and we start putting ourselves in different circumstances, we just don't know what to expect from that, and we're still taking it day by day. I don't think that's the only way that we can take it. I think since, his concerns are valid. The world's kind of taking everything day by day, or America is at least. So I don't necessarily see why there would be any, skepticism or, people criticizing the pitching coach for, voicing his opinions and his concerns. Once they start traveling, that's when we see if, this will actually work. It's not going to be like basketball. There is no bubble for the MLB. The TBT tournament showed that, a bubble can work and can be sustained for a longer period of time. But the MLB's not doing that. They're still traveling. They're still going to other teams, ballparks, which could lead to some, could lead to some, some troubles, some mishaps, some people testing positive out for 2 weeks. It looks like it's going to be a DL situation, but, what if someone's got coronavirus for 2 weeks, how are they going to cover that? Are they going to fly him back to his home location? Are they going to leave him in whatever case, he tested positive in? Like, say a team flies to Detroit and one of their major players gets coronavirus. Are they just going to have him quarantined in Detroit? It's stuff like that that's cause for skepticism. But here's something. And we all as fans, all we can do is try to remain optimistic. And this is a 100% optimism podcast. We are not, I'm not going to entertain the idea of a midseason stoppage. I don't think that a midseason stoppage is going to actually happen. I think that, everything's just going to keep moving. If a whole team gets coronavirus, that might be a cause for concern. But who knows? Maybe they can bring up some of their prospects and play a game for a couple weeks. Maybe we can get, Caesar, the Dodger clubhouse guy, playing left field. That guy has been electric on the news playing left field. I mean, he's made a couple plays in the outfield. He even doubled up Chris Taylor. Like, there are so many ways that we can be optimistic about this season, and I don't want to be focusing on the negatives when everybody seems to be focusing on the negatives. I want to focus on the positives. This is going to be an insane season. We got replacement umps. We got, there are rumors going around that they could be testing, the robot umps. If we get robot umpires this year on top of replacement umpires, how crazy is that going to be? How crazy is that? It's going to be an amazing year that, we're never going to forget this year for many other reasons. But in sports, we're not going to forget this year. This year is going to be the year of experiments. It's going to be the year of new testing. It's going to be the year of, just making new ideas. Who knows what the game is going to be like after that? Who knows who's going to drop out? Who knows who's going to step up and be the next guy? Are players going to, try and back out of the season and ultimately, Wally Pip themselves? Because that's something that I think players should be looking at a little more. Obviously, the big guys like David Price and Buster Posey, the guys who have a solidified name, they're not really going to care. Especially Buster Posey. I mean, he's got 2 adopted children. I think he cares a lot more about that than, playing baseball in 2020, which he should. But, like I said with Joey Bart, he could come in and be the next guy. And if he comes in and is the next guy, what's going to happen to Buster Posey? What's going to happen to Brandon Belt? What about, Pablo Sandoval? Is Pablo Sandoval going to have to, play third base so Brandon Belt could DH or Buster Posey's going to DH? Like, no one really knows what the future is going to look like because of this. And I think all those questions are going to lead to some crazy storylines during the year. And it's going to be fun to watch. A 60-game sprint is going to be absolutely incredible. I feel like it's going to be incredible. And I can't wait to definitely see it take place on Thursday with our opening game. And so with that, I'm going to be taking a quick break, and I will be back with word on the Mets ownership battle, the custody of the Mets. All right, I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, everyone, thanks for staying this long. We are just about to dive into the over-unders for the upcoming season. But before we get to that, let's discuss the Mets ownership situation. So, as most of you are well aware, the owner of the New York Mets, Joe Lipton, has been in negotiations to sell the franchise, which has been made famous by its, celebrity couple bidders, A-Rod and J-Lo. They've been competing with, billionaire Steve Cohen, and there's been, a bit more competition between the groups. It's strange there. It involves a mystery bidder, which is kind of exciting. I'm a guy who likes mysteries, so, there's been some speculation around it, and then there's also been some denials of being a part of the, bidding process. So, I've read that, reports that billionaire casino tycoon Sheldon Adelson is not only in for the Mets, but he is also linked up with Harris and Blitzer, who had Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment. Now, they also own a private equity firm called Silver Lake Partners. Silver Lake Partners has also, they've came out and said that, these rumors are entirely false, but we've also heard that, people denying rumors that were, really accurate. So who knows? It could, Harris and Blitzer could be involved. For the Mets' sake, I really hope they're not, because Harris and Blitzer are well known for owning the New Jersey Devils and, sadly, my favorite basketball franchise, the Philadelphia 76ers. So, Mets fans, do everything in your power to not make this happen. Ever since Harris and Blitzer took over for the Philadelphia 76ers, there has been nothing but bad management decisions. I could go on and on and on. But I think the worst one is definitely, it could be summarized like this. So, they signed Jerry Colangelo to be the president of basketball operations, which in turn forced their current general manager, who started the whole phrase, trust the process, they forced him out. He decided to resign, even though he had set the 76ers up for, so much success. He had stockpiled draft picks. He was one of the one general managers that I've seen in my lifetime since I've started following the 76ers in the year 2001 that actually won more trades than he lost. Sam Hinkie won almost every trade, but they hired Jerry Colangelo. Sam Hinkie left. Colangelo took over as general manager. And that, was a terrible experience. He lost every trade. And, he even led to a feud on Twitter over burner accounts between Colangelo's wife, and she was talking major smack to the star players, including a two-time All-Star Joel Embiid. When you hire somebody that ends up leading to a scandal over social media burner accounts losing trades, giving up draft picks that didn't need to be given up. That's not a really good decision. And then the Devils, they're, the hockey team that they own, they just fired one of the best GMs in the NHL, Ray Shero. So, good luck with that, Mets fans. I mean, you haven't had a ton of hope, since 2000. You did have 2016, but that ended up going a little poorly. But, there is hope. I just want to add. There is hope that the Mets can make this out unscathed. So, Harris and Blitzer, yeah, they have a lot of money combined with, Sheldon Adelson, but they're also saying that they're not involved. There's no involvement between the two. So that leads to the number one guy. The number one guy is actually Steve Cohen. Now, according to Sportico, reporter Scott Soshnick, he reported that Cohen, who already owns an 8% stake in the Amazons, also bid $2 billion for the Mets and an additional $2 billion for the television network and the Mets cable home, SNY. So, he's bid in. So he already owns the Amazons, which I had no idea who that was. And I looked it up, and it's, just reports on the New York Mets. So he's been a part of the Mets, and he just bid $2 billion for the Mets and an additional $2 billion for the TV network. So that seems like he is the best option for the New York Mets franchise. He's already bought in. He seems to love the franchise, and he also seems to know what he's doing. So that's something to look out for. But those aren't the only two. Like I said earlier, this was made famous by A-Rod and J-Lo teaming up to try and, bid for the Mets. But they are not bidding alone. They also have teamed up with Florida Panthers owner Vinny Viola, which is an insanely Italian name. I love it. All-time, all names. But he's a billionaire, entrepreneur, and businessman. Mike Rapole and a handful of other rich personalities that are already in bidding for the franchise. So they have an entire group shooting for it. So maybe, who knows, maybe they could sneak in and kind of go out from under Cohen. I feel like if they are able to get enough people in, I feel like they can get under Cohen. Now, ultimately, it's up to Joe Lipton. So is Joe Lipton going to go, I really love the Mets, so I'm going to go with Cohen because, he's been in, he loves the team, and I feel like he's going to put this team in the best situation? Or is Lipton going to say, this is whatever, I'm going to go with the money. And the money might actually be, the team of A-Rod, J-Lo, Vinny Viola, Mark Rapole, and, a handful of other people. The league, I think, might also step in and force it. They could also try and kind of force it towards A-Rod and J-Lo because, there's been a whole, inclusion around the MLB where they need more, ethnic owners, which I'm all for. So, I would not be surprised if J-Lo and A-Rod are able to, come right in and just, kind of take it out from under them. I feel it could be, that could be something. But like I said earlier, according to EliteSportsNY.com, there seems to be a fourth mystery bidder. One of the possibilities is a KC McWhorter's ownership group. Now, I have no idea who Casey McWhorter's is, but he seems to be, important because, he's lined up a $1.8 billion bid, as reported, and even has an endorsement from Mets legend Darryl Strawberry. That's, hey, a Mets legend, along with a $1.8 billion bid, if he's able to, get a few other people to come in, who knows? Maybe he could come in and slide under both of them and, kind of steal the Mets away. So that is also something that we will definitely keep an eye on. He says, the reports go, there were not on, that ownership group was not on the original list of the 7 pre-approved bidders by the MLB. Yet, he's been pushing for a shot at the team. Now that's something. But it's also not confirmed that it's Casey McWhorters. So who could be this mystery buyer, and could they pull off an upset in the race for the New York Mets? I think that's something that we could definitely, keep our eyes on, especially as the season goes by, especially if the Mets, they open the season against the Atlanta Braves. If they start to struggle in that tough schedule that they're going to have, they may, come up with a sale halfway through the season. That's something we definitely have to keep an eye on. I feel like if they go around 7 to 8 games below 500, which is it is possible, they could be looking at getting sold halfway through the season. Not something, that I'm really looking for. I like having the Mets kind of be, a little, the team that you whip on at the bottom end of the schedule. But, I'm all for great baseball also. So if they get sold and the Mets become one of the best teams in baseball, so be it. I love me some good baseball, and I don't care who's playing it. So that's something that we definitely need to keep our eyes on. I really do feel like Steve Cohen is the best case, though. There's something about a guy who comes in and just knows the history of the team, and definitely being part of the Amazons. He just seems like he's more bought into the New York Mets, and isn't going to take anything from anyone. I feel like he's going to be the one to come in. He's going to make great moves and set them up for a great future. I feel like he's going to pull, kind of a Derek Jeter and get the Mets out of the hole. I feel like he's going to come in and he's going to dish, DeGrom. He's going to dish Noah Syndergaard. He's going to dish, Marcus Stroman, and get a bunch of elite prospects. Derek Jeter kind of did that. He came in with the Marlins and he dished a lot of the big talent away. With a lot of skepticism towards it, but I was all for it. If it's not working after that long, you got to get rid of it. And, Yelich proved out to be an incredible player, an MVP caliber player, but he wasn't that caliber of player in Miami. So you got to get rid of him. Granted, they only got back pennies on the dollar, but, who knows if he would have made that switch in Miami. And then you got Giancarlo Stanton, who, seems that he couldn't have been healthy. Like, he can't really stay healthy. So, the trades make sense for the younger generation. I mean, we're going to see it with, Sixto Sanchez. He's going to come in and he's, if he makes a major splash, that's going to be one great trade for the Miami Marlins, and that's something that they can hang their hats on as franchise, having Sandy Alcantara and Sixto Sanchez coming in. That's a pretty good young start to the rotation. So the Mets, who knows, if they come in, get a new ownership group, and they start dishing away some talent, initially it's going to be led with some major skepticism. But I feel like it'll ultimately be for the good. They'll be at the bottom for a little bit. Like, it's fine, the bottom of the division. They will be the Marlins for a couple seasons. But, if they get the right talent evaluators, and I feel like, maybe, if A-Rod's in it, he can do it. If, Cohen's in it, he could definitely do it. I love the guys who know the history of the games. And who knows, maybe this mystery guy, if he is Casey McWhorter, if you got an endorsement from Darryl Strawberry, you're going to know the game. Or, know how to party. Either way, fit for New York. So, it's going to be exciting to keep our eyes on. I cannot wait to see it. It's going to be great. So, lastly, I am going to take my last break here. And for all my gamblers out there, I will be right back with my take on the over-under of every team's win-loss records. I will be right back. See you in a moment.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of the show. I really appreciate it. We are here for our final segment. Now, I hinted at this before. This is for all my gamblers out there. I am a 25-year-old. I like to gamble on occasions. And one thing that I really like to do is I like to, put a little money on the win totals for the seasons. I think it adds a little bit more pizzazz to the year. Obviously, if you have your struggles with gambling, this is definitely something, not something that I do condone. But, here we are. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to break down, according to DraftKings, the over-unders of every MLB team for this upcoming season, and whether you should take the over or the under. How many wins do I think they're going to get? I will start in the NL West. I will go NL West, Central, East, and then AL West, Central, East. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, in the NL West, I'm going to start off with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the Los Angeles Dodgers are tied with the New York Yankees for the highest win total at 37.5 games. And as we all know by now, the Dodgers seem to have this knack for catching lightning in a bottle with some random prospect throughout the year. They get pulled up during the middle of the year, and they just have an incredible hot streak, and they just keep them going. So I think that a 37.5 wins is definitely attainable. Now, one thing that could stop them from winning these games is, Kenley Jansen going down with coronavirus. He's had 2 open heart surgeries. So he is definitely someone who has to be taken seriously throughout this, and he could back out of the season. That would leave a huge hole in the back of the bullpen. Their bullpen has been a major struggle for them the past couple of seasons. They've relied on Kenley Jansen a little too much, and I think that's been the reason why they didn't make it to the World Series last season. But until they get dethroned as the team that you should worry about, I still think the Dodgers are going to win the NL West. I still think they're going to win above 37.5 games, and I think that's something that you can lock in. Now, moving on to the San Diego Padres. The San Diego Padres have just been voted the second best bullpen in baseball. If you listen to my last episode, the San Diego Padres, Chris Paddock's had an incredible season last year. I think that's something that he can build off of. I do like their starting rotation. I do think that they have a lot of talent coming up. They have, the solidified stars. They have Manny Machado. They have Eric Hosmer. They still got Fernando Tatis is coming back off an injury. They have Pop in the lineup, and I think that's something that they can definitely ride on their way to contending in the NL West. I think they're actually going to be the second best team in the NL West, so I think you can pencil them in for above 31 wins. Now, moving on to the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they led, they have Ketel Marte, who had a stellar season, a stellar season. And, they have Christian Walker as well, and they added Madison Bumgarner. I don't think very highly of Madison Bumgarner. I honestly think Bumgarner is just the Eli Manning of baseball. I don't think he does anything too great until he gets to the postseason, but it's just getting him to the postseason that seems to be the struggle. Arizona's good. I don't think they're going to be really good. I think that 31 wins is going to be right around where they go. I see them as max 33 wins. So at 31.5, I would be more comfortable at taking the under rather than the over. Granted, they could get hot, but that's also, they also have to go through the Padres, the Dodgers, they got to go with the Rockies, the San Francisco Giants, and they got to take on the entire AL West, who seems to be 4 teams that are viable for a playoff spot. I don't think that they're going to handle it very well. I would actually take the under at 31.5. Now, Colorado, I don't expect Colorado to be doing much. Trevor Story's going to be Trevor Story. Nolan Arenado's going to be Nolan Arenado. I don't think Charlie Blackmon is going to, go back to, where he was a few years ago when he was an all-star. Kyle Freeland, he's a big question mark. He had Cy Young caliber season 2 years ago, and then last year he, laid an egg on the mound. I don't know what happened to him, but that's something to keep an eye on. John Gray is a really good starter. Who knows? He could possibly get traded. You really don't know. So with Colorado, their over-under is at 26.5. 26.5. I see them as around a 25-win team. I would actually take the under. The San Francisco Giants are at 25.5. This may have changed since Buster Posey said that he was going to opt out of the season. But, even then, I don't think that they would have even competed in the NL West. And, they seem, besides the Seattle Mariners, I actually think that they are kind of the worst team out of the, Western Division teams. So I would actually take the under on the San Francisco Giants. I see them at around 23 wins. So now the NL West is done. Let's move on to the NL Central. We're going to start off with the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, St. Louis Cardinals are going to be without Jordan Hicks. That's going to be a major deal. But I do actually like their starting rotation. I do like their bullpen. And the St. Louis Cardinals are kind of like the Dodgers in a way. I feel like they have an incredible farm system that just keeps pushing talent. I think that they can pull somebody up or probably move, some names around. Like, who knows, maybe Dakota Hudson could take over. Maybe they put, Carlos Martinez back in the closing role. That's something to keep an eye on. I feel like the Cardinals at 32.5 wins is definitely a team that, because it's going to compete. So I have them at around 35 wins. I would take the over on that. The Chicago Cubs are next. Now, I don't think they did a lot to attack their bullpen. Their bullpen was kind of a weak spot last year. Their lineup is as solid as always. Like I mentioned a few segments ago, there is skepticism with the testing. So that's something that I would, keep my eyes on. But the Cubs, at the end of the day, are the Cubs. And, the past few seasons, they have been a very good ball club, going to the postseason, competing very regularly for the postseason. And as we all know, the Central divisions have not been that great. And they don't look that great this year. They're spending a lot of their time playing against Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Detroit, and, Cleveland, who we don't even know if Cleveland's going to be a buyer or a seller. They can, wait halfway through, like a quarter of the way through the year and then realize, we'll just write this season off, go into the off season and, trade away our big names. So their schedule could actually be easier than we actually think. So I would take the Cubs over. I think that there is a 3-team race in the NL Central, and surprisingly, that third team is not going to be Milwaukee. Now, who is that third team, you might ask? I actually have the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds are at 31.5 games projected. I am hammering the over. I think that the Cincinnati Reds are poised to make a run this postseason. Like I said, their schedule is going to be light. It doesn't seem that strenuous. They have a very good infield. They have Derek Dietrich off the bench or coming off as, a designated hitter. So they got youth, they got power, they got bullpen, and their starting rotation is nice. Trevor Bauer says that he is willing to go every 4 days. So if, the St. Louis or the Cincinnati Reds are able to make that happen, that just makes their bullpen beefier because they're able to put a fifth starter in as a long reliever and just carry a four-man through rotation throughout the year. And if that is possible, watch out. I would actually put them down to win the NL Central this upcoming season. So 31.5 wins I think is a little low. Take the over. Pittsburgh is at 25.5 wins, and I haven't heard really anything out of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think that they're going to be the team that the Central kind of beats up on. So I would not expect them to win above 25.5 games. I would just take the under on that. So lastly, in the NL Central, we have the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, the news coming out of Milwaukee this season is that Christian Yelich is having a slow start. He's not playing that well. He got struck out by Brandon Woodruff. I think he got hat-tricked by Woodruff in an inter-squad game. So that's not good. Maybe his head's somewhere else. Maybe he may opt out this season. Nobody really knows what's going on in that. But if Christian Yelich is not having a good start, I don't think that with, St. Louis, Chicago, and Cincinnati coming out of the gates, pushing for that playoff spot, if Christian Yelich starts off slow and the Milwaukee Brewers start off slow, I don't think that they're going to be able to make up ground, and they may be hovering around a 30-win team. Now, they're at 30.5, so it's all contingent on Christian Yelich. If Yelich, is able to break this cold streak, come out of the gates hot, and, do some damage in the early part of the season, the over may hit. But if he stays where he's at and he continues this slump into the early part of the season, I don't see the Brewers having a whole lot of firepower to kind of carry him throughout the early parts of the season. They could end up as a 28, 29 win team. So my mantra is life's too short, hammer the over. So I think that, Christian Yelich, if I'm going to sit and think that he is going to stick this season out. He's going to figure out what's going on with him, and he's going to come back and he's going to have a great season. I feel like the Milwaukee Brewers will end with around 31, 32 wins, so I'm going to take the over on that. So, now, let's move on to the National League East. Now, I'm going to leave my Atlanta Braves for last. I'm going to start off with the Miami Marlins. Miami Marlins are one of the lower over-unders at, win projections, as you could probably tell, with 24.5. 24.5, I honestly feel like they're going to get 20 games. I feel like they're going to be around 20 and 40 because it is a juggernaut of a schedule that they have to play against. Everybody knows that, the the interleague play is going to be, West versus West, Central, East. The AL East is top heavy, and even the Toronto Blue Jays have so much young talent. They're just not going to want to throw the season away. They're going to come out and they're going to compete every single game. So there's not one team that they can kind of phone it in against and catch some wins. They're going to have to come out and give their A game every single night. And even then, I don't think that they'll be able to do it. So 24.5 wins, I would take the under. But I do think that every time Alcantara takes the mound and Sixto Sanchez gets on the bump, they're a team you're going to have to watch. I feel like those are really exciting players, and they could do some crazy things, and they can make some pretty big highlights. And, so don't fully sleep on the Marlins, but sleep on the Marlins. And now we're going to go to the defending World Series champions, the Washington Nationals. The Washington Nationals are at 33.5 games projected. That's a little tricky. That is a little tricky. They did lose Rendon. I'm not really sure, but I don't think Zimmerman is playing this year. So those are two big bats for the Washington Nationals that are gone. They still have Scherzer. They still have, they still got Strasburg. They still have their bullpen. They're coming off a major, World Series run. They were taken as the underdogs all season. But one thing that happened last year is they had an incredibly slow start. I think that they may have a World Series hangover in a way. I don't think that they will win 34 games this season. I think 31 to 33 is going to be right in their sweet spot. So I would actually take the under on the Washington Nationals. The Philadelphia Phillies now are my big question mark this season. They're really, really big question marks. So they got a new coach, Joe Girardi. Bryce Harper's coming back. It's his second season with the team. JT Realmuto's coming back. It's his second season with the team. Can their starting pitching figure it out? That's the major question. Can David Robertson stay healthy? That is also a major question. Are they going to play with their hair on fire? Joe Girardi seems like the hard-nosed coach that's going to be able to, kind of stick it to Bryce Harper and Jake Arrieta and David Robertson and, all these big guys who are known competitors. I feel like he can spark them in a way that other coaches couldn't. So, my guess is that the Phillies, I thought they were going to win the division last season, but I definitely think that they're going to compete this season. I actually have the Phillies coming in second place in the division. I have them winning over 31.5 games. Now, let's move on to the New York Mets. Like I said in the last segment, they have, the ownership dispute going on. No one really knows what's going on there. They have very, very, very good pitching. They added Dellin Betances. They added some, back into the bullpen guys. Let's see if Edwin Diaz can have a bounce back year. If Edwin Diaz has a bounce back year, they could compete with the Phillies and, maybe the Braves for the number one spot. But I don't think that they have the bats to do so. Yeah, they have Jeff McNeil. They got Pete Alonso. And Yoenis Cespedes looks like he's more than ready to go. He's just, all the videos I've been seeing has been just electric contact. But there are other things going on around the organization, and that could take a toll on the team. They did lose Syndergaard to a torn UCL this year. The back end of the rotation is good, not great. So we got to see how they perform in this, this juggernaut of a schedule. Like, it is relentless, the schedule that these guys have. So that's something that we need to keep an eye on. 32.5 wins. I can see them winning more. I can see them winning less. But like I said, life's too short. Hammer the over. Get them about, I would say, around 36 wins. Now, for my Atlanta Braves. Started off the show with them. They added Puig to the roster, saying that he passes the COVID test and, his physical and all that. They went after back-end bullpen help. They got Will Smith. They got some other, big names coming out of the bullpen. They lost Dallas Keuchel. Felix Hernandez, who looked, refreshed in spring training, has opted out, so we don't have him this upcoming season. We do have Cole Hamels. Maybe Cole Hamels can come out and just, he's back in the NL East. Maybe that'll, rejuvenate him, get him back to his old Philly days. I highly doubt it, but, anything is possible. The major question is, can Fried and Soroka make the next step? They had stellar seasons last year, but it's not called a sophomore slump for a reason. So, Fried has his amazing wipeout curveball, but, he can, lose location a little bit. Soroka stands a little tall. He could leave that sinker a little elevated, and he kind of struggled at home last year. He was more of a road pitcher. What's Newcomb look like? Is Newcomb going to come out of the bullpen? Is he going to be a starter? Where's his arm slot going to be? What's his mechanics look like? That's always been his problem. So there's a lot of question marks on the pitching end, which is something that I don't like. I want to build my teams around pitching, but I think that's something that the Braves can handle being so young. I feel like they can wiggle their way around it, and the moves that they made in the offseason to beef up their bullpen is going to leave them, in a prime position to hit the over and, repeat again as NL East champions for the third straight year. So I would have them as the over on 33.5 wins. We'll see, though. We will see. It's going to be, interesting to see how they handle the AL East this year. So that's good with the NL. Now let's move on to the AL West. AL West, we're going to start off with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They're at 31.5 wins. Now this is also a huge, huge, huge question mark, just like the Phillies. Yeah, the Angels, they got Rendon, but they've been burnt many, many times with large free agent signings in the past. I mean, going back all the way to Gary Matthews Jr., they haven't done that well with free agent signings. I think only a handful have proven to be, how do I even say this? Like, even good, I would say, with the Anaheim Angels. I mean, Torrey Hunter was great. Torrey Hunter was probably the one big free agent signing that worked for him really well. When they got Albert Pujols, he took a major dive. Granted, a major dive for Albert Pujols is still, better than the normal player, but, his foot gave out on him. He tended to struggle with the adjustment of moving halfway across the country. He was just, having some struggles. Josh Hamilton had his struggles. C.J. Wilson was good for like a year and a half, maybe two. Bobby Abreu was okay at best. So, and, they didn't even attack their major weakness what is their pitching rotation. Yeah, they got Julio Teheran in free agency, but, as a Braves fan, I know Teheran tends to struggle in places, not named Miami. So having him come in, that's on a major win for the Angels. Shohei Ohtani is on his way back, but he seemed to be a little wild. So, and, Mike Trout, we don't even know if he's fully committed yet. He could back out of the season at any point. So with the Los Angeles Angels, yeah, they're looking like they're going to compete. I don't think they've had enough time to gel. I don't think they attacked their bullpen enough. I think it's all smoke and mirrors. I would not take the Angels to compete in the NL West. I would take the under. Now, my favorite team I wouldn't say my favorite team in the AL. My second favorite team in the AL, for sure. The team I'm going to be watching the most of, the Oakland Athletics. The Oakland Athletics, their pitching is amazing. They have such great pitching. They do. Their pitching is amazing. They got Frankie Montas back. Mike Friars is either, giving up 7 runs by the third inning, or he's throwing, a complete game shut piece. They got AJ Puck back. They got so many pitchers. And another thing that kind of shocked me about their offense is, like I said in my last episode, they've been top 5 in weighted runs created plus each year for the past, 3 years. I didn't think that was coming out of Oakland. I think Oakland is going to be able to compete, not only compete, but excel this season. And they're actually the team that I'm going to pick to win the AL West this year. I have the Oakland A's at around 40 games. They also, side note, along with the Los Angeles Dodgers, have the easiest schedule by only playing 17 games out of their 60 against teams with an above 500 win percentage from the last season. Take the over on the A's. That is the easiest bet in the books. So now we're going to move on to Texas, to the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers confuse me. I don't know what to think about the Rangers. They have, they're projected around 29 wins, so at 28.5. I don't like them. I really don't. They tend to struggle last year. They struggled mightily against the AL West. They did not do very well against the NL West in past years. I don't think that they're going to be able to push for the playoffs like everyone says that they are. Everybody's calling them a legit contender. I personally don't think so. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe, with the Angels, they're still have pitching woes. We don't know if they're going to be able to do it. Maybe they could sneak in. Maybe they could be, a sleeper team. I'm not sure. I would actually take the under on the Texas Rangers this upcoming season. I think that they're, a few years away. And the most interesting team of this season, we have the Houston Astros. Now, the Houston Astros have major question marks this year. They have an insane pitching staff. We all know they got Greinke, they got Verlander. They still have their great bullpen, and they still have all their wonderful players. But no one forgot what they did. So they're going to have to play. If you think that, teams are going to bring their A game against other good teams, people are going to bring their A+++ games against Houston because everybody seems to be angry at them. Like, everybody. So that's something that, that's going to loom over their heads. I think that they are going to come out of the gates, and I feel like the pressure of having to compete like that is going to get to them. I feel like a lot of their hitters are going to struggle at the dish. I would actually take them. I would actually take the under on the Houston Astros this year. I know that might be a little bit of a hot take, but that's just something that I'm currently feeling at the moment. Then the Seattle Mariners at 24.5 games. I honestly think the only way that they can get more than 24.5 games is if they do like they've done the past couple years, where they start out really hot to the point where you have to sit back and ask, are these guys for real? Because it seems to happen almost every year for the past couple years. Was they went so hot out of the gates, and then there's always that inevitable road trip to the Bronx, and they just get the brake speed off of them, and they're never really the same after that. So if they could start off hot and win 15 of their first 20 like they have in the past, I think that's the only way they can really top over this 24.5 game win projection. If that's not the case, then I don't think that they're going to do it. I would take the under on that. Moving on to the AL Central. I'm going to start at the low end, and I'm going to end with my favorite. So I'm going to start off with the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers are at a 21.5 win projection. This is a good question mark. I think that the Tigers are going to keep their prospects down and just have them practice with the teams. I don't think that their prospects are actually going to come up and play. Like I wouldn't count on seeing Casey Mize this year. I wouldn't count on seeing Cody Clemens. So I would expect the Tigers to kind of be the piñata of the Central. I have them as the lowest team in the Central. I got them at around, I would say, around 18, 19 wins. I would take the under on them. Kansas City Royals. Kansas City, I feel like they're rebuilding. I feel like they're trying to find a spot for Whit Merrifield. I don't think that they're going to compete very much. I haven't seen what their pitching staff looks like. They have not made many moves. So I would say it's pretty pretty safe to pick the under on 23.5 wins. Moving on to the Cleveland Indians. Cleveland Indians, also a major question mark. They're always talking about how they're trying to save money. Why are they trying to save money when they have such a great team? What I feel like they're going to do is they're going to, if they struggle out of the gates, I really do feel like they can, kind of phone in the rest of the year and just think about, all right, maybe we can, set up some deals, make some trades in the upcoming season and, kind of start rebuilding for the cheap because they've made it known that they're trying to save money, which I personally don't get, but I also don't own the team. So that's something that we need to keep our eyes on. They have them with the second most wins. I have them placing third. 32.5 is kind of where I see them going. I see them at around 34 wins. I would actually take the over on them. Next up, we have the Minnesota Twinkies. Now, with the Twins, they have made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons only 3 times in the past 30 years. 40 years. 50 years. What year is it? So it's 2020. They've only done it 3 times since the year 1970. Can they do it again this year? That is a major question. They have an uphill battle ahead of them. They got some more homers with the addition of Josh Donaldson, but they didn't really attack their pitchings. Their pitching staff, they even threw an Uber driver in the postseason last year. That's, who knows what's going to happen with them. And, I don't think that they can ride the home run bug like they did last year. I really don't think so. That's something that the Twins have to take into account, especially with, their back end of their bullpen was kind of shaky. It was. It's going to be a rough year for the Twins. Definitely look for them to get. Oh, man, it's kind of hard to talk about the Minnesota Twins because I just don't really have that much faith in them. 34.5 wins, I think mainly because the NL Central is going to struggle a little bit, the bottom of the NL Central, that is. And then they have a lot of their games against Kansas City and Detroit. They will hit the over, but I don't think that they're going to win the division. So at 34.5, I see them around 36 wins. Now, the team that I am so excited to watch, this is my favorite team of the American League, the Chicago White Sox. The Chicago White Sox, I feel, are primed to shock everybody. I love their team. They look so good on paper. Tim Anderson is coming out hitting tanks. Luis Robert slipped and hit a ball 6 rows back to center field during an inter-squad game. It was incredible to watch. They even got Edwin Encarnacion as a DH for Jose Abreu. These guys have power. They have pitching. They have the swagger. Watch out for the Chicago White Sox. 31.5 wins. Low. Way too low. Hammer the over on them. Now, heading in to the last part of our show, the American League East. Starting with the Baltimore Orioles. At 20.5, I think they'll be lucky to get 20.5. I see them as like a 17, 18 win team. There's no team that's going to be someone that they can look forward to playing. Even Miami has a lot of young prospects, and they're going to be so hungry for a win that seeing the Baltimore Orioles is going to leave them salivating. So I feel like even at 20.5 games, I feel like that's too much for them. Take the under. Toronto now. Toronto has a lot of good young stars. They're going to be energetic. They're going to be happy. They're going to be ready to play. But one thing that I don't think that's going to work out for them is I don't think that they beefed up their pitching well enough. I think that their bullpen's not going to be able to close out games. I think they're going to be able to compete. I think they're going to have a lot of highlights, and I think it's going to be very, very, very fun to watch the Toronto Blue Jays. But I think 27.5 wins is a little too much for them. I see them as around a 24-25 win team. So I would take them. I would take the under on the Toronto Blue Jays. Moving on. The Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox, they beefed up their defense by picking up Kevin Pillar from the Toronto Blue Jays, one of my favorite players to watch. I love Kevin Pillar. I think he's a stellar do-it-all kind of outfielder. But their pitching always leaves me wanting more. They lost David Price. He hasn't been, granted, David Price has not been great for Boston, but I do feel like, their pitching is going to be a major question mark going into the season. Maybe an injury or two could be catastrophic for the Boston Red Sox. So at 31.5, I see them anywhere between 28 wins and 33 wins. So, my motto by this point, life's short, take the over, but if you do take the over, do not get comfortable at all. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays, they have the pitching, they have the hitting. I feel like they have everything ready. They are poised to make a run, and they have one of the easiest schedules out of every team in the Eastern divisions. I think they're ready. I think that they're going to win the AL East, to be honest, because of our next team's schedule problems. Barring a major injury or, a lot of struggles in the pitching staff, I would say Tampa Bay over, take them to win the division. And lastly, we have the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees, once again, like I said earlier in the show, they are at the top of the list with 37.5 wins. Now, this is going to be a problem for them. They have one of the hardest schedules up until September 2nd. I don't know why September 2nd is the cutoff for them, but they have Murderers Row September 2nd. They have a ton of injuries, a ton of, potential injuries along the way. We don't know when Masahiro Tanaka's coming back after that terrible incident. Giancarlo Stanton is a swing away from being on the DL for 6 weeks. Same with Aaron Judge. I don't know who's going to tell him that hot yoga would probably be good for him. Stretch out that core a little bit for the massive explosion, put down the weight a little bit. But, we don't know how long they're going to be around. And then, Gary Sanchez is a great hitter, but, Aaron Boone's got to tiptoe the line before, he gets in his feelings. So we don't know if he's going to, be fully committed. Their pitching staff is really good, but Sevy went down. We don't know. Like I said earlier, we don't know when Masahiro Tanaka is going to come back. Their back end of the bullpen looks meaty. So if they could just carry leads into about the 6th inning, I think that they can get it done. But a couple injuries here and there, maybe a little rough patch during the middle of the season. I feel like they're a lock to hit the over. I feel like 38 wins is going to be right in their ballpark. I feel like they're going to be between 38 and around 42. But I still don't think that that's going to be enough to, dethrone the Tampa Bay Rays. I think the Tampa Bay Rays are primed and ready to take the championship. And now that, everybody, is our show. Thank you so much for listening. For everybody out there, if you're bored this weekend, I know you're going to be locked inside. You want to, maybe you play a game for Tap Baseball. All my Tap Baseball heads out there, if you want to start a game, my username on Tapped Baseball is Evan, EVAN, Worley, WORLEY 23. I will be accepting any challengers. I do not back away from anyone. And with that being said, thank you for listening to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask you to please remember to subscribe to the show, write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You guys have yourself a great weekend, And I will see you on Tuesday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.